It's going to take a while before we work off those inventory levels. And even this morning, as most people would have heard, Iran is expected now to add to the oversupply. And so it will take a while before we have a supply-demand equilibrium and prices start going back to hopefully a higher level. And that will make for a tough year in the industry.
It's at an all-time low today, the oil price.
Yes, we saw Brent below $28 and WTI below $29. Not since 2003 have we seen prices at this level.
What does that mean to you when you get up and you see that?
Well, it means that we have a lot of work to do, but I'm still confident that we can do that work and protect the future. That's more than a 70% reduction in prices, which means that we've lost significant revenue. And what we have to do is to take necessary steps to shore up the present and protect the future.
Recently, we had some unrest with the Tufco situation.
Yes.
The residents of Labrie and the southern communities feel as they are to be left behind or left out, or the energy sector is closing down on them. What do you want to say to the workers of Tufco and to those in the Southern Peninsula?
Well, we're always sympathetic to workers who work for us or for contractors that work for us. As you mentioned, these are contractors that work for Tufco, and Tufco is building our Juniper platform. And whether they work directly for us or not, we're always concerned about the welfare of workers, first for their safety, and also for their welfare beyond safety. So whenever we hear any complaints, people should know that we look at it very carefully, but we also only contract with contractors that we know take safety and respect for people very seriously. So I'm sure that Tufco will handle this with a kind of respect that we would expect of any of our contractors.
Looking, moving forward, Mr. Christie, there was a decision also internationally, 4,000, and that was the international news coming out of BP's headquarters. Is that going to affect the local operations at all?
Well, 4,000 people, as you know, is a lot from the segment, and we talked about the impact of this downturn on people. If I could just back up a bit, I joined the industry 30 years ago when we were in another major downturn. And there were significant job losses then as well. In fact, I remember it being in the Amoco building in Chicago where I started and seeing people leave with their boxes of personal effects. That left me with a lasting impression. And one lasting impression is to be very, very respectful of the impact on people. So when it comes to job losses, yes, I can talk about the 4,000 across the segment. But locally, we want to be careful to be talking with our staff and with government first, as you would expect. We love talking to the media, but we don't talk to our staff through the media. So we're still in conversations locally, even though we know the segment effect. And those conversations need to play their way through the system.
Have you started those conversations, Mr. Christie? Because cost cutting is essential at this time for the survival of any firm. And the quickest thing that people do would be to cut the HR contingent.
Well, I wouldn't say the quickest thing. It is one of the considerations. You're right. We have to manage our costs. That's going to be essential for anybody in this industry. But talking about job losses, that has to be a last resort, not a first resort. But it is a part of the mix. There is no business when it loses 70% of its revenue that's going to say that jobs are off the table. You can't say that. It has to be treated with, again, a very, very meticulous consideration of long-term impacts. And for that, we also have to treat our employees with utmost respect.
Now, looking at 2016 and beyond, you have described it as a very tough year. Major players are meeting today to discuss the way forward. People are concerned that operations and companies like BP will simply pack up and leave. And I think you remember the legacies of the 1980s when you had Shell, you had Amoco, you had all of these big companies in the Mayara belt, and they said, well, it just is not cutting it anymore.
Well, I certainly understand the concern, but I have a lot of confidence in the future. And we're demonstrating that confidence by investing a lot in terms of capital. So while we are managing our costs and looking at all options, we're still investing in projects like Juniper that we discussed before, and projects coming after Juniper, including plans for exploration. So while there is concern, and rightly so, we have to recognize that there's significant confidence in the future. What we have to be careful of is making decisions now that impair the future. And that's what we are very, very committed not to do.
In terms of future investments in 2016 and 2017, will BP actually continue investing in our country and in the sector?
Well, interestingly, we plan on spending more in 2016 than 2015, even though we've lost a lot of our revenue sources I mentioned. And that, again, is because we have confidence in the future. Now, there are always caveats. If for some reason there would be a radical change in the investment climate in country, for example, then things could change. As I put it, if the country took the welcome mat away because they decided that's not the right thing to do, then obviously I can't give a guarantee if that should occur. If things stay as they are in terms of the investment climate, our plans are actually to spend more, as I said. And last year we spent close to 1.5 billion US dollars in capital expenditures.
Where are you going to spend the money?
Largely in developing assets that will produce for the future. We're all aware that there's a shortfall in gas production currently. And that occurred because we didn't invest enough in the past. We don't want to repeat that mistake. So a lot of the spending is going towards guaranteeing that we have the production that we need for the future.
Now, over 250,000 people in the industry have lost their jobs as a result of the changes in our price environment. The major question everyone has in their mind is, how are you going to survive in this environment?
Well, we're going to survive by taking the kind of prudent decisions that people have heard us talking about for a while. Managing our costs, that's absolutely essential. Working together with other people in the industry, collaboration is essential. We have to actually not fight against each other, but actually come together to become more competitive as an industry, because there are other sectors that are making changes to become competitive, and they will compete against us. We have to be first to the gate, making the changes that we need to make to stay competitive. So it's cost management, it's collaboration, it's actually not turning against each other, but working with each other in partnership to make Trinidad and Tobago a competitive place to invest.
Now,